So this talk is titled Building VR for Today and Tomorrow in Unity. And what does that really mean, and what is this talk going to be about? So as an overview here, I'm going to talk about some of the tooling and things that we're building up right now, specifically for the virtual reality ecosystem. Now, if you guys are familiar, you know VR is very new medium. There has been developments in technology previously, but now it's kind of come to the forefront with a lot of technical advancements. And while I'm going to be kind of telling you some ideas and things that we think are some possibilities here at Unity, no one fully knows a lot of the practical kind of applications because things are so new. So I'm going to be giving some kind of suggestions, not really like writing the law book or anything like that, but it is going to be a bit of a glimpse into what we're doing at Unity and what we think you can take advantage of. So first I'm going to be talking about analytics in 360. So at Unity, we have a fairly robust analytics system, and I'll kind of describe some of the tooling we've built recently for this virtual reality ecosystem. Next, I'm going to talk about cross-platform tools. So these are ways that you can develop for one platform in Unity and then port it to a different with ease there. And then lastly, I'm going to be talking about this newer idea that we're calling kind of immersive advertising and how that fits into virtual reality and how you could potentially take advantage of that as well. So for analytics, Unity was built as a game engine, and so our analytics platform is fairly robust in supporting a lot of basic game functionality. So things like, how many lives did the player lose before they beat level 1, what level did they stop playing at, and things like that. And those are kind of the basic analytics funnel. More recently, what we've been doing is exploring some things called spatial analytics. So this is things like heat maps. And this 360, or this spatial heat map that you see here, has actually been out for quite some time and is applicable if you wanted to use that in virtual reality. And so what this does is it goes and kind of plots these transparent squares depending on where the user and the player actually is in the experience. And so from here you can see that maybe not a lot of players got to the secret area, or not a lot of players even went down the right path. And so what you can do here is take that data and then analyze it with this visual component. And so these heat maps have been out for a while, and something we more recently released is something we're calling 360 video heat maps. And so a big key with any sort of analytics platform is collecting the data and then analyzing it. The more data you have, the better decisions you're going to be able to make about your product or your application. And so with 360 video heat maps, what we allow you to do is take a special shader inside Unity. So we have support for 360 video. And using this special shader and this plugin, what you can actually do is collect data at where your users are looking at the 360 video. So if you're familiar with kind of any sort of video player or thing like that in the past, if you're talking about 2D video, you as the director are able to control where the player is looking. You're framing the shots, you're showing them what you want. Well, inside virtual reality and inside 360, you kind of lose that control. The user can look wherever they want. They can be looking over here the entire time, and you could have a really important moment going on in the video. And so with the heat maps, what you can do is, as you kind of look around, it starts to collect data, sends back analytics, and then kind of patterns or colors the video so that then you can go back and analyze it. If you shot a video and you have a really important kind of story moment going on over here, but you also have a butterfly that's maybe flying over here and a lot of people are following that butterfly, then potentially you could use that data to somehow inform the users or somehow bring their attention back to that key moment. And so this is available right now. It works with Unity out of the box. It's basically up on our public GitHub there, and I definitely encourage you to check it out. Again, it's kind of a way to understand where the person's looking, where your users are actually being directed inside these 360 videos. So the next thing we're doing at Unity is cross-platform tools. So one of our big selling points is that if you develop for one platform, it's easy to port to another. So if you develop an application for iOS, the porting work to develop it for Android is pretty minimal. Now if you developed it for iOS and you're trying to go to PlayStation 4, there's obviously going to be some hurdles there with controls and stuff like that. And if you guys are familiar with the current VR ecosystem, you know that there's a lot of new hardware, a lot of new controllers, a lot of new technology being released literally every day by a bunch of different platforms. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to maintain that kind of cross-platform ability at Unity to help you as developers, build your application for, let's say, the Oculus Rift and port it over to the HTC Vive. And so one of the key parts of that cross-platform ability is something that we're calling the tracked pose driver. So this is a built-in component into Unity. It was officially released inside 2017.2. And what it allows you to do is, you can see in the screenshot over here, it allows you to configure a device at an abstract level. So this is kind of taking the abstraction from the SDK, like the Oculus SDK or the OpenVR SDK, and bringing it more towards a generic level inside Unity. So if you have something like, let's say, a left controller and a right controller, what you can do here is with the enumerators there, you can do kind of generic XR controller, left controller, and then the tracking type depends on what platform you're on. So the HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift have rotation and position, so you could configure it for that. This one here is set up for a Gear VR. And again, it's this kind of generic component that you attach to your objects inside Unity that allows this level of abstraction, where you're not specifically coding in or hard coding, all right, this is an Oculus controller, do all these things. This is a Vive controller, do all these things. Instead, we provide this kind of component. And another key feature for any cross-platform is obviously input. So being able to say, a trigger was grabbed, get the event back from an HTC Vive trigger, a trigger was grabbed, get the event back from something like an Oculus Rift. And so what we're doing is we're actually developing a new input system. So currently right now we do support native input for HTC Vive, for Oculus Rift in our current input system. And this new input system that we're developing, and you can actually see it available at the GitHub link down there, it allows for more of these event-based triggers. So what you could do is you can configure the events of trigger down. And again, it plays into this level of abstraction where a trigger was clicked down. You're not worried if it's the Oculus trigger or the Rift trigger or a new headset or a new controller that we don't even know about. Instead, we're providing this kind of abstraction for you as a developer to be able to develop for one platform and port it to others. So the last thing that we're working on, and again, this is kind of an experiment that we're trying out right now, and it's something that we're calling immersive advertising, or virtual ads. And so the idea is that when someone is engaging in a VR experience, we have the opportunity to target them with certain advertising that makes sense to that application. Now, one of the things that we really did not want to do is we didn't want to do something like product placement. We didn't want to do some sort of generic 360 video or something like that. So instead, what we did is we actually built an experience inside an experience. So you can see on this video over here, what's happening is the person is kind of flipping through a comic book, and when they get to this one page, there's actually an advertisement for Jigsaw the movie. And so what happens is that this is a VR experience where you're actually reading a comic. Comic books can potentially have advertisements and things like that inside of them. But then the real kind of interesting part here is that once you've reached that page, you can actually just kind of put it on your face, and then it loads up a full VR experience. And again, this is not a 360 video. This is a full kind of mini application within a larger application. And so the really interesting part here is that through this application, we found that users were much more engaged. They're kind of excited to go into this other world. They stay more active inside the VR advertisement than before, and they remember and have a closer kind of connection to what was being advertised there. When you guys try out virtual reality experiences, there's that kind of remembrance of what you did because you're actually going through these experiences. It's not something that you're just watching on a 2D screen. You're really participating and being active within them. And so we found that through some analytics, and we were doing some things like biometric testing and stuff like that, we found that people really engaged and enjoyed these VR advertisements much more. And so what we're doing is this was our first partnership and kind of foray into the area. And so if you guys are interested, if you're either an advertiser or you're interested in putting some sort of experience like this inside your application, definitely follow that website there at the bottom. And what we're doing is right now we're collecting information. We're trying to reach out to certain partners so that we can link up the developers with the advertisers. You know, this Saw movie was a partnership with Lionsgate. It made sense that it was releasing very in time with this application. It made sense to be kind of a page on the comic book and things like that. And a big thing, again, is that this is just something we're trying out. You know, we have at Unity, we have a mobile ads business. You know, that's where we, you know, you're able to integrate ads into an application that you make. We work with partners to get the right ads and things like that. And so this is an experiment on how we can bring, you know, immersive VR experiences and have it be kind of tied to this advertising. So again, if you guys are interested in that, we have, you know, we have some people working on things like this, and definitely follow that website. There's a little form to fill out that can put you in touch with the people working on it. So that's pretty much it for my presentation. I just kind of wanted to give you guys a high-level overview of some things that we're working on with the cross-platform stuff, talking about analytics so you can get, you know, a better understanding of what your users are doing and how those relate with the spatial analytics as well as the 360 video. And then lastly, just give a little glimpse there into VR advertising, stuff we're kind of exploring with this new immersive medium. So thanks a lot. I think we have some time for questions.
Wait, I have a question.
Sure.
What about augmented reality? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I mean, which aspect? So I guess the tracked pose driver for the cross-platform stuff, that does allow you to do something like a tracked RGB camera, and so that's what you're using when you have the mobile SDKs like ARKit and ARCore. So again, we're building up a layer there that we're calling kind of AR interface as a work in progress that allows you to, again, you know, build on, let's say, iOS, and by default, the SDK for ARKit will be plugged in, and then if you switch platform over to Android, the ARCore SDK will be plugged in. So for you know, for the cross-platform stuff, we're still working closely with that because we know that that's a big strength in our platform. Is, you know, you guys just develop things at a high level, like when on mobile, when you're doing touch inputs and things like that, you're not worried about the SDK level thing. And then behind the scenes, we plug in the correct SDK.
Awesome.
Yep.
How's it going? I was wondering if there's any kind of flagging for ads. So like if I'm doing a Sesame Street VR experience, I wouldn't want a Jigsaw ad to play. Is there any kind of like content sensitive screening that happens? I think there is for the mobile ads. Yeah. Yeah, and so of course that's obviously a key point in any sort of advertising business is you don't want to be, you know, advertising let's say cigarettes to a child or something like that. Now obviously there's some restrictions on advertising cigarettes, but with the immersive ads as well is we're really trying to take it, at least at this level, on kind of a partner by partner basis to find the best fit. You know, the comic book application that you saw there kind of has a bit of a horror theme going on, so it made sense that this advertisement would fit in well with that. So yeah, it's definitely something we're paying attention to moving forward as we build these out more. Cool. Well, thanks a lot. I'll be around.
Let's give him another round of applause. Thanks, Dan.